Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Experiencer Interviews. And today we've got another amazing soul coming to us from Australia. We have Elsa Dillon on board today. Elsa Dillon, including her husband Richard Dillon and their 8 children, are a family of 10 experiencers living on a farm in Byron Bay Hills, east coast of Australia. Both Elsa and Richard are international fashion photographers and videographers, shooting celebrities, magazines, and advertising BTS professionals for over 3 decades. This will be the Dillon family's second incarnation here on GAIA, as they are part of what we call a family of Oversouls. Elsa will be sharing with us some of her experiences regarding the paranormal and their contact with over 400 beings to date in many forms and multi-dimensional realms. So Elsa, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone.
So yeah, we've talked briefly a bit, before the interview that you had a few NDEs. Could you get into that, please?
Well, the first NDE I'll talk about was when I met my husband Richard. So the day before I met my husband Richard, I was painting my apartment, and there was a cord hanging down, and I didn't realize it was electrical, and it was in the way. The caretaker said it was dormant, so I just cut it with some scissors. I was up on a ladder really high up at the ceiling, and I cut it, and I don't remember anything after that. I remember waking up to my dog licking my face, but I was not completely on the other side of the room. And as I woke up, I could smell burning, which was obviously me. I looked down at the scissors, and the scissors, they were heavy duty scissors to get through wire, had a huge hole in them. And then I realized that I couldn't really get up quickly, and I was just trembling. My whole body was just shaking. And as I was shaking, I realized that I'd been electrocuted. And that was the day before I met my husband. The doctors told me not to have a shower, don't have coffee, because you'll probably pop your heart because my blood was pumping. So I wasn't allowed to walk too much. So it was a very non-movement time for about 24 hours, nearly 40. It was pretty much up until I met Richard, was the first moment I would go out after that. Since having our children and having all our experiences, our children and myself have realized that I was electrocuted by one of the family members, by the Oversoul. And it was our number 5th baby. And her name is Ginger. And she is highly connected to electricity. When I was pregnant with Ginger, I had, I think it was 5 electrocutions. 2 were probably a near death again. When she was born with an electrical storm. She can hold electrical fences for the farming around the property. Appliances talk to her and connect with us, and will flicker and communicate through us. Not only is it lighting, it will be a fridge, washing machine. When we go out in the stores, the lights in the stores will it could be anything with Ginger. But she's her beingness here on earth is all electric. And I'm sharing this story because of how it connects. It's not what we think. Her Oversoul basically took me out to clean all the parasites out of my body before I met Richard. And that was necessary in the process of meeting Richard, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to communicate with him properly and have the proper alignment with Richard. So the kids our kids are playful with their channeling or their contacting of beings or experiences. So our children say to Ginger, well, you can't do that because you killed mum. So they tease her a lot about it because it's quite funny. And it didn't happen once, it happened a few times with her. So a lot of the experiences we have, and that I'll share with you and your audience today, is done in such a playful manner that it takes all the heat out of it. It takes all the scariness out of it, and it presents in a fun and energetic and loving manner so that people feel at ease with it. Because the more that we feel at ease with it, the more that we relax, the more the fear and worry disappears, the more our frequency lifts, and then the information comes through clearer. If we're in states of fear and worry, it can come through as dark energies and can harm us, harm our bodies, cause disease, cause discomfort. And we're not here to do that. We're here to present it in a fun way. So many of the stories we'll share today always have a fun, playful side, and they almost seem so simple. But that's the other thing I feel, that all these experiences that the family have had are so simple that they get dismissed.
I've never had bad experiences before, and most of the people I've interviewed over 70 people so far, and most of them, like 95% of them, have had positive experiences, positive contact. So a lot of healings as well. So how did you and your husband meet up?
So prior to that date, we met at Fashion Week. So because we were fashion photographers. So Richard, my husband, was traveling the world, and I was too. And he actually had a first wife in America and in London. And they were together for, I think, a year, but not a lot together because they were traveling too. Her name was Elsa, nearly identical to my name. And their relationship didn't work out. He came back to Australia, and then he heard my name and went searching for me. I know, right? And he went searching until he met me, and he met me at Fashion Week. And pretty much once Richard had made eye contact with me, it wasn't that he didn't let me out of his sight. He just knew that we were to be together. He knew before he even had met me that we were going to be together. So it's quite a calling, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
We've got 8 children together, Richard and I. It's a big number. I'm not maternal in any way, so even when I hear myself say 8, I still get a little bit of a shock because I'd never held a baby before. I thought, because I was a career person, I thought that the kids might go to boarding school, or I didn't really think I would be so how I am, hands-on. But once we realized that we were going to have children, we were cleaning our act up all the way along prior to that. Once Richard and I basically were together, we were cleaning our act up. We were watching our words. We were watching our frequency. We would feng shui the house so that the energy would flow, so that everything was we're always aiming in how we are each day to have each moment at its optimum level. And frequency wise, everyone has ebbs and flows, so everyone goes like this. The more you can fine tune every moment of your day with just your simple little day-to-day things, what you digest, what you're thinking, what you're looking at, how you walk, how you stand, everything changes, and it can't not change. And that's what we've been doing. And it works. We're actually living proof that the more we do what we're doing, the more things happen, amazing things happen.
So yeah,
And
I guess
that's,
intention is a lot.
yeah, intention is a lot. And it becomes your spiritual practice almost. And I never considered myself a spiritual guru or any of those terms, but having this, the story of Elsa walk around, the more I can improve it, the better.
Oh.
For longevity, for the children, for my children's children. Yeah. So
Okay.
while we're here walking on earth, whoever's path I cross is a gift. So meeting you today and meeting your audience today is a gift. But it sounds like it's a spiritual gift. I'm not meaning it in a spiritual gift. I'm meaning that I will get messages from meeting you today. As I already have, I will read your frequency, you share your frequency, I share my frequencies, and then it evolves, and that's expansion. And we share moments together and collect those moments together. So another near-death experience that we had was one of the experiences that happens a lot to me is they make me we call it, the best terminology is time travel, but we call it moment collecting. So I had a huge craft experience in November 2017 where I was gone for 10 years and have come back, but it was only 20 minutes in our time, which is, I've been told since then that it's 10, I think they call it 10 and back, the space soldiers. So I'm 10 and back. So in that 10-year time frame, they took me back to a near-death experience when I was 3 or 2 or 3. Yeah. So when I was 2 or 3, I would have ringing in my ears, and my parents thought there was something wrong with me. So they would take me to the doctor, and the doctor would syringe hot water in my ear. And they were saying it was from buildup in my ear, but they would do it every few weeks, and it would feel like it was exploding my head, and I couldn't hear for a few days after I would leave that place. We were leaving the doctor's surgery and we were crossing a highway, and there was 3 lanes heading one direction and 3 lanes heading another, and my mum had my sister on her hip, so she was a little toddler, and my mum was holding my hand. And as we walked across the road, my mum's hand moved out, and I thought we were crossing. As I was crossing the road, I felt extreme heat on my face, like it was burning, and I could smell my eyelashes and smell that smell of hot burning hair. And I opened my eyes and I could see into the craft that I saw in 2017. So I can see beings in the light, and I can see the shape of the beings from 2017. I turned back to look around where I was, and I could see people screaming and running. I saw cars everywhere, and I had realized that I had a car accident with a car, but I don't know if I had impact or not. And my mum really never wanted to talk to me about what happened. I think she felt so guilty and sad. She was crying. They were all screaming, but I couldn't hear anybody. So it was peace. It was complete quiet in chaos. It was the most angelic, surreal feeling. And that was pretty amazing, that experience. So through what's interesting is a lot of the time through happenings and experiences, you were at the time they're happening, because they're so foreign or different to your day-to-day, they feel like they're something bad. So my mum, for example, wouldn't talk to me about it because she felt, she felt responsible, I guess. She felt that her baby's out there on the freeway getting, but it's okay, because it wasn't what she thought it was. It was connected to ETs in the future.
Yeah, I've never had that. That must have been an amazing experience but you didn't know beforehand that you're actually
No.
seeing the future.
Well, what was interesting with the 2017 craft, and I hope I don't lose you or the audience by describing it. So when it happened in 2017, we worked out that it was a craft and I was gone for 10 years, but then we let it rest in our family. We went and saw a kinesiologist and they confirmed it for us. Then we let it rest, and it was from that point on was the catalyst in our family that the ET experiences really amplified from that point of the craft and the kinesiologist. Once we acknowledged it, it just like snowballed up until right now, till this date. This year in February, I met an amazing lady called Mary Rodwell, and her knowledge of paranormal and ETs and children and starseeds is just, she is just a goddess. Her information. Anyway, we met with her, and she was very interested in the children and all their drawings of beings. And she said, well, do you want to do a hypnosis? The day before the hypnosis, that's when I learned about my near-death experience when I was a child. The ETs sent through info about the near-death experience, and then I went into hypnosis with Mary, and then I actually relived the whole craft experience through. So it sounds like a lot of going back and to and fro, but what happens is we find is that the beings assist you lifting your frequency. And sometimes, even though you've had that being experience, whether it be a ghost or an orb or an ET, you're not ready for the full download yet. And maybe you never will be ready for the full download, maybe only ready for a little bit of it. But they first have to, it's like they have to start a trigger in you, and then it comes back. It can come back later once you've lifted your frequency. And the messages I keep getting is that they do that so it doesn't hurt our bodies or our 3D-ness or our belief systems. So it comes back again to our free will. How willing are we to say, okay, I will allow you to come into my conscious and communicate with me? But a lot of the time when you first see them, you'll say, go away, or leave me alone, or you're scaring me, or and that was me. I was that person. I used to run into my bedroom from the hallway and not touch the floor. I would jump into my bed because I knew that I under my bed a lot, like a porthole under my bed.
Were you afraid of the dark when you were a kid?
I was very afraid of mirrors. Mirrors are just mirrors and reflections in mirrors, because when I walk past a mirror, not only do I see me, then it shape shifts and I can see through into other dimensions, and I never knew what I would be seeing, so it was very confronting. Sometimes it would be ghosts, sometimes it would be, so every time we would walk past a mirror or a reflection, I would duck. So in saying that, with all the relaxing of the fear and the worry, we now have we have no paintings in our house. We only have mirrors on every wall now in the house. We have like over 13 or 14 mirrors in the house, and no one's scared of mirrors anymore.
At what age did everything start for you then?
Well, back when that hearing thing, one of the reasons that I think my parents felt there was something wrong with me was that I would talk to a dragon type being, which a lot of people would say was reptilian. And I would only, he was very tall. It was a he type energy, so I'm going to say masculine, and I could only see up to the knees. And he would always reassure me that it's okay, that they don't understand. And when I was younger, I thought it was because they don't understand his language. But now, as I've gotten older, I realized they just forgive them for what they don't know, because you don't know. And they don't, because they would say to me, there's nothing there. But I could be sitting on his foot. So how can they say to me he's not there and I'm sitting on his foot and I can feel all his scales and I can smell his lizardy kind of smell? I could smell him. How can you tell a child that experience isn't happening when it's happening for you? But it's something that us humans do. If they can't see it, they say you can't see it. And they don't mean to be that way. It's just that their frequencies are so low, they can't see it. It's impossible. But as you lift your frequencies up, you see them. And that's why kids see monsters and ghosts, and the kids see them. They see them so clearly because they don't have all the programs that they're fresher. In having 8 children also makes me an experiencer of 8 children, because most people have 1 or 2 children, but to have 8 is again the normal, again the normal, and again the normal. So we've had 8 children in 10 years. So we could see what was happening at different stages in their life, of what level of frequency or ascension or seeing they could see through, right, going through puberty. I mean, our children are still growing up as well. So it's very interesting watching the process, what happens through different age levels, as well as, our own personal aging as well. What is interesting though is that our little girl, who's 3 or 6, whatever age they were, we can tap into the same energy and see what they're seeing.
At the age of like 3.5, well, 3, when you saw the while you were having that car accident, can you describe what you saw, inside of the craft?
The beings I saw in the craft were more energetic. As a child, they were more white, but in 2017 they were more fluid type. They showed me that the other important thing in all this is that we call it reincarnation because I don't have another word for it, but we believe our family is repeating another realm. And the other really big thing at my childhood, when I was having the ringing in the ear, was that in our house, the only Egyptian thing my father had from Egypt was a bust of Nefertiti. And my father, being Egyptian, he said he lost all his luggage coming from Egypt here. It fell into Sydney Harbour.
Oh, no.
But he kept his bust, which he had, I think, in his brother's suitcase. So then coming back in time to 2011, having a dark night of the soul night, shifting to Byron from Sydney, doing my hair, I had the bust of Nefertiti come through, and now she's telling me the reason that I have black hair, the reason that I'm here, the reason why you're here. This is your husband. We have it. It's almost like we have work to do now. And
So, okay.
I didn't know anything at that point where I'm talking about in front of the mirror. And I'm actually reliving it right now. Speaking to you, I still to this day don't know who Nefertiti was. But now I know.
Yeah. Well, how important is Nefertiti to you and your family?
So Nefertiti and Akem and their children are the same age, the same realm. So they've showed me that we're repeating that realm. They've also showed me that they're as alive as we are, as I am in front of you. So they've told me that history isn't what it seems, and we can change history. And then that's sort of, when we first came to each other, we had to prove ourselves to each other. And after in each realm, to each person, Nef and myself, but also to the husbands, so my husband and her husband. Once that happened, then the changing of history started, and it becomes now a practice that we do. So she'll assist me in this realm, and I'll assist her in that realm.
Okay.
And I wouldn't have believed it myself if you told me back in 2011 that it has happened more than once on multiple occasions. And that was the way that I explained it to my family. Now, in saying all this, we kept all this to ourselves because it's weird, right? It's kind of, who does this? Why do you do it? What's the purpose of it? And so what happened is we were living that and learning them, and they were learning us, and things were happening. And then the 2017 craft happened, and that's when the ET started. So then I realized that they were in support of that. So it's all connected.
Okay.
So then I realized that it was all part of it.
Wow.
It's mind-blowing, it's exciting, it's weird. When I hear myself talk about it to people, I'm going, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? I'm sharing things that have happened to us. Whether we have enough proof for others or not doesn't make any difference. This is unconditional. The information I'm sending out is just pure experiences that we're having. They haven't been read about. They haven't been taught. They are things that have actually happened to our family. And they're there to assist others, because if it's happening to us, it's happening to others. It just has to be. And it might not be happening in the way that it's happening for us, but it will be happening in the way it happens for you, that the way you're meant to be here. And that's why we started sharing Christmas time. So we're nearly coming up to a year of sharing. But up until that point, we kept this all to ourselves.
Wow. Growing up, my mom would tell me to not talk about it to others, like to shut up. My mom was my go-to person when I had experiences, but also strangely, I thought everybody had these experiences. So to me, it wasn't really a topic of a subject I would bring up in conversation. So why speak about something that happens to everyone? So, and at the same time, I wouldn't talk about it because my mom said not to, because for various reasons. But yeah, I totally get it. So does all of your children remember their past lives?
The children are, so they're going through the process. Each one has a different way of experiencing. So the little girls, the youngest ones, they speak Arabic. They write Arabic. They've self-taught themselves Arabic. Not only writing it, they've got hieroglyphs. They're it it's not, I can't speak Arabic. They've never met their grandfather. So why did they speak Arabic? Well, they've been told by eagles and sirens to start doing hieroglyphs. So,
Wow.
so then your daughter, who's 6, comes to you with hieroglyphs and tells you what the original code is on them. Not only has she written it, she can say it. And you go, well, how do they know that?
Yeah.
Okay, so even if you've just learnt it on Google or something, they know it within. It's quite amazing to watch, and they're quite passionate about it. So again, we don't place any boundaries on their interests, because we feel that each one of them, their interests is being basically connected to the universe. So
wow.
It's out there. I mean, we've had, the other children have had Egyptian things come through for them, beings, or our first son, he was told off by them. Yeah, he ran away, and they came and met him in the paddock and said, you either come with us or you go home. Like they're a lot of the time they're very definite. Then they don't muck around. Our eldest daughter is connected with Scotta.
Okay.
Scotland. Our second eldest daughter, Gigi, is the drawer.
Okay.
Then we have Ginger. She's the electrical one. Then Jerry, Jeannie, and Gidget are drawers as well. So there's four, we call them the drawers. There's 4 of them. And not only were there 4 drawers here, but there's 4 drawers in the other realm. And there's actual drawings of them in the other realm drawing. Yeah.
Did you have a lot of paranormal stuff in your household?
I would have a lot of the Fae world, a lot of elves, goblins, fairies, a lot of fairies. Then I would have the ghosts, so lost souls, a lot of lost souls. A lot of pain bodies would come through. So I'd be talking to someone, and then I can see a pain body following them around. So, or their inner child. So, one of the ways that I found that I would photograph people, so I feel that a lot of people, when I would photograph them, they would always say to me, these are the best photos I've ever had taken of me. And they said that it was like you were reading me, and it was like I could bring out, while I'm in the zone of shooting them, which you do, you go into a zone, like it's like a meditation. So you're in a space and the model's in a space. I would connect to their inner child. And I felt that when I was photographing a lot of people, I could see their inner child. So it brought out a youthfulness in the photos, which it's a nice feeling. But again, a lot of this is understanding it and reflecting back and going back and collecting the moments and understanding that everything you cross in your path is not random. So when you start to realize that, that's where it gets really interesting, because now you're starting to go back in time and expand that. So yourself, you've had experiences, you go back to that experience. Now, you can't remember all the exact words, you can't remember everything you're wearing, but you remember the feeling. And the feeling is the frequency. So you go back, you collect that frequency, and then you bring it to where you are now. Then you collect more frequency here in 2022, and then you go back again to that location, or that feeling or frequency, and you collect it again and you bring it back. And that's what we class as expansion.
Okay. Wow. Have you ever had souls that quote would come up to you and ask for help?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, we have places where we drive past and they feel weird. They just feel weird. And I'll be thinking, wow, this place feels really weird. And I always look at that thing there, like it might be a letterbox or a signpost or a statue. So I always look there. And then I'll be, a few times you'll drive past it and then I'll say it out loud. And then someone in the family goes, me too. And then another person in the family goes, me too. And I go, that's it. What's going on there? So then we'll clear. And then a lot of the times we'll find out that it's a haunted place, or there's been a lot of car accidents at that spot. So we will, it's not a big ritual thing. It's just something that we do in the family, and we just go and acknowledge the situation, acknowledge what's happened, and ask if we can assist them. And then if we can't, sometimes it's just the acknowledgement. And then, I don't know, it just feels like it lifts. And then the next time we pass that place, it feels different. Like you'll see more things growing there, or you'll see a wind where it spins and makes the leaves circle like that. You'll have things like that present, and you know that what you've done with that frequency in that spot has lifted it and given it a new spin on it. And that's what we just do. That we do. At first we had to like really acknowledge that we were doing it, so it was a bit more of an effort, whereas now we just do it really quickly because we just come across it a lot.
One time, like we talked earlier before the show, I would get a lot of body taps at night. And one time, I was connected with this group from Australia. Historically, it's called Talk Group, and a lot of it. So we're experiences Skyping back in the day, and we'd meditate together. And we meditated with this beautiful music that was played. And when I went to bed, at night, I woke. I heard a voice right in front of my face, and the voice said, "I need your help," really like in front of my face. And so I woke up with in a jolt, and so I decided to call out to the universe to help whatever being spoke to me. And from that moment on, the night after I woke up, I was getting multiple taps on my right thigh. That woke me up. And from that moment on, all the taps stopped. So the thing is, when I bought my new house, the first thing, this is strange because I wasn't really into this back in the day, but in 2009, when I bought my new house, it's a modular home. So it was brought on site. There wasn't like an old cemetery. This was deforested area. And the house was new, but I said to my family members and those that knew me in the past, you're welcome to come in my house as long as you protect it. And from that moment on, I started, my trash bin would open and close at night. And I would get a whole bunch of taps to wake me up. And those taps followed me because I had to sell my house eventually. And I moved in with my dad because my mom passed away. And I moved in with him to watch over him for a while. The taps would also follow me there. And as soon as I received that voice for help and helped it, the taps stopped, which is sad a bit. But
yeah, I get what you're saying, the feeling of sadness, because we had some that really were scaring us, and we ended up working out that they were lost. They weren't actually scary. They were lost, like lost children. And then they became friends with our kids. But then we helped them move on. So then we felt sad that they weren't around anymore, but we felt good though. And it's a sad feeling sometimes because you feel that they're gone, but I never feel like they're fully gone. Like maybe they'll come back, or maybe they're just watching now.
I get it. Yeah.
The tapping is interesting because Gigi gets that a lot. The one that the pictures that we'll show later on, that's Gigi. She gets tapped a lot. She gets tapped while she's drawing. She gets tapped in her sleep. She gets imprints and in her where they'll be like in her shoulder, and then she'll come and show us. See this? See that dint?
Oh,
That dint's from last night.
really?
And then she says, I said, well, what do you need to do anything about it? She goes, oh, I've just got to go draw them. So
Oh, that's good.
she just goes and draws them.
Yeah.
But it's interesting for them to actually present in our 3D is really tricky. So the fact that you have the rubbish bin moving or a flickering light or your computer screen going on and off or the electricity turning off or glasses breaking, any way they can send signs to us, they do. It's just how receptive is your receptors to see those signs. And the more receptive we are, the more that can come in and the more that you elevate. So then you can expand. And that's how it's, for us, it's all just merged into one, whether it's a reincarnation, whether it's a ghost, whether it's ET, it's all sort of working in with a frequency. And when we look at our animals on the farm to the wildlife on the farm, that's all they use is frequency. That's their whole way.
Has you, well, yourself or any of your family ever had electric shocks to the head while you were sleeping? I did a C5. I think this happened on New Year's Eve of 2015. I did a C5, nothing happened. And I saged the house. I went to bed. At night, I'm sleeping on my side and I get an electric shock a bit behind the ear, not on the fleshy part, but on the scalp. On the hair. An electric shock the size of a finger, like somebody's touching you to wake you up. It was so strong. I woke up in a jolt and I started kicking in the air like I was a dead chicken. Like, a chicken with no head. I thought somebody was in my bedroom attacking me. And I relax. I realize there's no one in the bedroom. And I look at the clock right beside me and it's 1:11 a.m. Exactly. So I got that as sort of wake up call to say, hey, you wanted us to come and here we are. And we gave you the sort of 1:11 a.m. angel number just because you're into this stuff. So I thought it was fascinating. So I'm just wondering if something similar might have happened to you.
So now I'm moment collecting with you, and 111 means you're on the right path. So you're on the right path. You've called them in, but when that happens, your frequency wasn't able to sustain or what they could offer you any further than contacting you because they don't want to harm you. So now you're communicating with myself and an audience that experience. So now you've been electric shocked. That's your trigger or the catalyst. And now everything from every moment from that point will be building your frequency to maybe go back and collect the information that they gave you, because when they touched you, that's a download. But it's just sitting there in like a bank or a holding place. You spoke of a holding place before. The holding place is just waiting for you. And then once your frequency's there, then you can go in and collect that if it hasn't already happened for you. I'm just giving you an example of, I'm giving an example of ways to interpret it so that you realize the reason that your body was screaming like a chicken, that feeling I understand, because I've had those moments of fear as well. And that's a fear in you. So once that fear goes, not only when you're conscious, but when you're also unconscious, once that fear program is dissolved, this connection that touched your ear will expand for you.
Okay.
It just will. It will already be in you. It won't even have to happen again or anything. It will just illuminate. And
Okay.
you know, like fear can. I haven't. I don't think I've shared this story on an interview. I shared it with the group that I chat with. I had this happen. I think it was last week. I hadn't been to the beach for 4 months because we had been shifting home. The last time I went to the beach was the solstice in June, and then 4 months now I go to the beach. I go up to the lookout, and standing on the lookout, which is probably 4 or 5 flights of stairs, so it's quite high on a little cliff. Since I can ever remember, I've always had a fear of standing on man-made structures on cliffs, just bridges. I'm just not good. I'll go to the edge and completely freak out and go to my hands and knees. and I don't want the children anywhere near the edges. I sweat. My family are like, I always don't want to pass my fear on to my kids, that this one I can't, this one this one is huge for me. And I always was kind of a bit down on myself because I couldn't deal with my fear. And, you know, I'm going on about all this to my children about fear and worry, and this one fear keeps presenting, and it happened again last week. So I'm sweating, and I see a little baby go, the mother lets this other little baby, a stranger, and the baby climbs up the rails to look over the edge, and I'm just dripping at this stage going, oh, I can't bear this. And then I had a realization, this is not my fear. This is the fear. I'm feeling the energies of many indigenous people that have been massacred on these locations. So I'm tapping into all the last breaths of past souls. Not only am I tapping into their last breaths, but they're visualizing in their last breaths their family members getting pushed off cliffs. So
They did
I'm
that.
going to the...
They actually did that.
Not me.
I know, but
in Australia, yeah, massacres everywhere of not only Indigenous people, but people that they had collected on all the islands, which is called blackbirding, as slaves. So they had them here when they didn't want slaves anymore and society wasn't accepting slaves anymore. They had to get rid of them. And they got rid of them in the masses everywhere around Australia. It's not talked about, but I'm tapping into that energy. So now these sad scenarios that are horrific, but I'm tapping into, and I'm realizing that it's like an angelic moment. Like I'm realizing, and I'm meeting these beings, and I'm saying, it's okay, you can go now. And so I understand what you were trying to tell me. Thank you. And now I can walk on the walkway and I don't sweat. My fear has gone. So it wasn't my fear that I was carrying around, it was fear of others. But I cried when it happened because it was quite beautiful. But it was also sad, but beautiful. But it's also an acknowledgement. And I'm sharing that story with people because sometimes you think it's your fear, but you're not. You're actually tapping into some frequency. So then it's not your fear. So see how now my fear or my phobia has not turned into a phobia. Now some people will class it as a gift. So you're reversing the spin on things.
Wow.
It's pretty cool, right? I'm still in awe of that one because also you feel honored now because I reflect back of all the times that I had fear and all the times I was tapping into, lost souls. So it's can be overwhelming too as well.
I suppose you have to be sensitive to this thing firsthand to be able to tap into that. I'm not sure if everyone could be like, have the experience that you had if they don't have the gift, let's say, that you have.
I believe And so our families resonate this, is that we've all come down, incarnated into earth through our oversoul, and we all have we're all here to have an experience or a happening here on earth. And we actually do have a say in what happens, and we all have our own free will. And it's up to us to tap into that and remember it and play it out. And that's what we're here to do. So my experience can't happen again to somebody else. It just can't. That's not what creation is about. Creation wants to have creation, so it doesn't want to have a copy.
Okay.
So you can't copy somebody else's experience, or you can up it to a certain point, and then it will dissolve or become dull or lose momentum. But you're here to have your own spin on things. So each person has their own way of doing it. It's just finding it, and no one gives you a book. There's no book on this. Unfortunately, there is no book. There's no book, there's no Google app, nothing. You have to find it, and it all comes from within you. And it's tricky. I'll say it. I can share all my stories with you, and they're flowing freely, but I had to work all this out by ourselves. We didn't have guidance or teachers or anything. We had to work from within out. Then you start to connect all the dots.
Can you talk about the plasma being that you spoke about earlier?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. We've had a plasma being present. When I connect with a being from the past, I don't retain all the information, so I've got to read it from the book, because it's information that was given. So I'll just read this plasma being. This plasma being, we have only had a little bit of information on. When Gigi first drew this being back on the 16th of January, I think it was 2020 or 2021, all we got was it was a plasma being. And this is the being here. And this being has, we call it, they lie dormant with us. So they come through, we acknowledge them, and then it will come through and present for somebody. And we feel that this being has presented for you because all the information has come through just really quickly today. So this being is a plasma being, and it's an extreme conductive. So it's a conduit. It has a chemical process for ascension. So this being comes through because of ascended ones ascending, and it's a chemical process. It's not just a spiritual process. It's actually the atoms in your body have to carry the endorphins around for this ascension. So your body has to be in a certain plasma energy state so that it can conduct all the and not only conduct but generate all the magnetic and energetic fields that come through. What I love about this being is it reminded me that the closest plasma being to us is our sun. And when I heard that, I nearly cried, because I just thought that was beautiful. The other thing that happened with this being was I think it was nearly a year ago, I was asked to go on a Zoom with an overseas group. And I don't usually do that because it was like a public Zoom where you just attended. But they were quite adamant, this spiritual person, that I do this. And so I attended. And as I attended, a very famous, well-known spiritual guide called Tim Sims held up the plasma being like a doll, and as he was holding up the doll, I was digitally downloading the image that Gigi had just drawn. Not only did that happen for one person in the group, another being came through for somebody else in that group. And then I realized they were showing me, this is not random, this is. So then we connected with those people on the Zoom and showed them the beings, and then they resonated and agreed. So so this being that's presented with you, we feel has something to do with your audience, because you're helping assist ascension and sharing the information, because that's where this next, they always ask me what the new world will look like, and the new world will be more of this, more of sharing, more of appreciating that there is no randoms. Who crosses your path for a reason.
I always thought that, well, I used to explain to people that I thought my life, at least some of experiencers, that were like pieces on a chessboard, or being moved around to specific places to do specific jobs, to meet up with individuals.
Again, we are in Earth, we are walking around, so we are around others that don't see what we see, and that's fine. What I do like is that because we are so large, our family, our little girls, especially the little girls, Jeannie and Gidget, they'll be standing there watching stars, and they'll call in beings or meteors, or they will call them in, or Gigi will say there's something going to happen in the northeast, so she would point all the family that way. So, and we have had people around us when these things happen and they can't see what we're seeing, and we understand that. So it's not that we're better than anyone, or it's just that their experience, their avatar, their body, their soul, their temple or vehicle on Earth at that time hasn't got all the information at that point to accept that frequency, but maybe they're accepting other frequency, like they've got other roles to do. There's no right and wrong here. Everyone has their own spin. And I feel that when you feel the anger of someone, is usually when it's like, so if you imagine something spinning and then you're holding it like this, and you can see it's building, it builds pressure behind it, because it wants to spin. Their soul wants to spin, but they're angry that they're holding it back, and then they lash out. So that's what we find happens a lot, which is one of the reasons we just don't, when we're walking around in our day-to-day, we don't openly talk about everything, because it's intimidating and it upsets people. It upsets people. But we do have a lot of people that cross our path who come to buy a surfboard, or come to sell us something, and we will speak to them, and then we will help heal them with a lost soul or an ET experience. And they won't know that we do that. We just openly speak with them, and then something happens, and then we talk to them, and you can see then we go, oh, that's why they came to our house, or that's why we met them when we were in the shopping line, because we were meant to assist them through that. And again, everything might be just a little step, but it's those little steps that are huge.
When a friend of mine that I work with, she clearly has prophetic abilities, because when she dreams of stuff, it usually happens. She dreamt that when one of our former bosses would leave the company, which he did. She knew something happened to me, and she called up the next day. Hey, I dreamt something happened to you. Is something bad, or stuff like that. But she's very religious. And when I shared with her my story about having the shadow beings in my bedroom, at first she thought, are they sorcerers? So you have to be careful when you open up to certain people, because depending on how they were brought up can really affect how they take the info.
Yeah, the biggest thing we've had come through for, especially I feel like my training from the beings, is original primal language and code, they keep going, it's not what you think, it's not what you think. And I go, what do they mean? It's not what I think. And they keep saying, you have to deprogram the words, deprogram the meaning. And the best one I've been giving to people at the moment is lack, because we were told messages that up until the end of November, a lot of people will be feeling the energy of lack. Now, the actual word lack comes from the word leak, and leak comes from the word of a leaking spring or a leaking bosom of a mother breastfeeding, and it's eternal. So our interpretation of what lack is and how I understood it from my schooling was that you didn't have enough. But if we go back to the original code meaning of the word lack, it means eternal spring. So it means actual abundance. So that's how I've been sharing that example with people, because it's not what we think. So the term Merlin or the term magician comes back to the three wise men with Jesus. Now this rattles everyone because it's the Bible, right? But I love the Bible because the Bible has a lot of information in it, but it's kind of hidden. And it's no different to a Hollywood film. There's a lot of information in all the films, but they're hidden. The same with nursery rhymes. There's a lot of information in them, but it's hidden. You have to be able to read the signs. And once you be able to read the language and read the signs and go back to the original, it's not what we think. So it lifts. And so, you know, that dark Hollywood scary music, once you turn it off and put playful music with, it's completely different energy. So
there's a lot of control too.
Yeah. And our kids know their programs. They just say it's a program. Yeah. It's design program. And you know, people say, oh, they're evil programs. And I say, well, who says they're evil? Are they really evil? Are they helping us ascend? Are they helping us awaken? So
did you talk about the being called Usha, I believe?
Yeah, Usha. Usha's amazing. Usha's amazing. Usha came to us when a porthole opened at Easter in, I think it was 2021, 2020. I get my years mixed up, 2020. And we were asked to go to a mountaintop at sunrise and open a porthole, the whole family. So the whole family decided that that's what we're going to do. So we went and we were up at 2 a.m. each morning. The kids would bake sweet bread. And we go to this location and we do a clearing and open the porthole, and Usha was there. Usha being is she is like, the way we describe her is you drive past a shopping complex or something, and they have those big white beings that have air in them, and they promote a sale or something. Do you know the beings I'm talking about? They're like balloons. Yeah. Well, Usha, when this porthole in particular came through at Easter time. I'll find a picture in a minute. When the porthole comes through, she showed me that it moves like those balloon beings. So it would go around like that, and then it would whip like that and go around and whip. And quite a lot of beings came through that porthole. So when beings come through, Usha assists them through, because it's hard for them to come through into this density. And she not only does she assist them through, she downloads their energies and then pushes them through. And she's like a tunnel or a channel that they come through, and she literally ushers them through. Her energy when she came through for probably, I think it was 4 or 5 family members is our necks all locked on one side. So we found it really hard when she first came through to receive her messages clearly, because it actually hurt us, because obviously we weren't ready for her frequency. As we sat with it, so allowed time, we rested our necks. That probably took a day. We actually then all of us our neck started to disappear, the pain, and then we could clearly understand what her messages were. And she told us where to go to open the porthole. She told us the days, she told us what time. And so then as we were at this location, it was very cloudy in the morning. It was actually raining on one of the days. There was 3 days we did it. And then we saw the clouds open, and 2 girls saw beings and crafts, so they drew them. So it was pretty an intense energy that comes through. But Asha is an important person important being, because she does assist them through. And it was interesting because you think of beings coming to Earth, but you never actually think of how difficult or painful it can be for them as well.
Wow.
And she
I had no
helps
idea.
them. I know, we didn't either. And I guess I'll see if I can find a picture. Because she came through in a drawing for us with Gigi in such a beautiful way, that you just respect them. There's this just respect for these beings. This is Asha.
Wow.
And she came through on the 1st of March for Gigi, and she's called galactic transportation. And she said she understands that it's hard for us, that she very much appreciated us accepting her beingness and assisting. And she was very appreciative to Gigi for holding her frequency long enough to paint, because sometimes these paintings can take days. The layers, the colors, and also with Asha, there was with Asha, she had a lot of light language come through. And we found the more light language that Gigi drew, the more this pain went in our neck. So yeah, we've had a few beings come through, and it's a bit painful. So then you start to realize, hang on, am I having pain because am I ill? Am I having pain because I don't have enough water or salt in my body? Am I having pain because there's electrical storm coming through? Or am I having actual pain because I'm downloading from a being or a ghost, or so then it takes the heat off you. It makes you realize that we're like that chess game that you talked about. It's part of a big picture. And you sort of stop being so hard on yourself as being a human. Like that fear story I told you, now I realize that. And so I can share that with our family and share it with your audience. And you might go, hang on, that isn't my fear. I wonder if. And then it's that curiosity, the inner child comes out, and then it expands. So expansion starts.
A lot of people that I talk to, some of them are really hard to convince, like you said earlier, and a lot of them want this sort of nuts and bolts, boots on the ground type of experience, and a lot of it is also energetic. It's also in the dream state, and the fact that you do have like out of body stuff happening at night sometimes, and you don't know it, and you totally forget once you're back in body. And one time I had an event, and I was, was in a dream. I'm with my brother, who's not really an experiencer, at least not now. And we're both looking at the sky, and I'm seeing this black dot from the horizon coming towards us. And it's two pyramids, two black pyramids morphed into one, and it's coming toward us. You know, something I've never really seen before. You know, I'm sleeping, so I'm not really connecting with my human mind. Okay, so I'm just looking at that, and as soon as it's close to us, it morphs into a gray. The gray says to me that I had an important mission. It disappears. So I sort of black out consciously. My conscious comes back. I'm in front of two humans. They're dressed in government clothing, and they're debriefing me nonstop. What did the gray say? What did the gray say? What did the gray say? That was their only question. Eventually, I give in. I say, the gray said that I had an important mission. They get up. They're all pissed. They get up and they go away. And I wake up the next morning. So I started Googling two pyramids morphed into one. And what I saw actually exists. It's called a Merkaba. And so they're two pyramids, like, you know, from Giza, morphed into one. And what they say that the Merkaba is, it's a light vessel, a transportation light vessel for the soul, let's say. So what I saw coming towards me in my mind was the gray and his sort of transportation form from like a soul vessel moving towards me. It moved back into its body, let's say, to communicate. So I saw something that I didn't know existed. So, you know, thanks to Google, I was able to ascertain that it was something. So it gave me corroboration that even though stuff might happen to you and while you're sleeping, doesn't mean it never happened.
Well, they cannot prove that we're awake. They can't prove that this isn't a dream. There is no proof. There's so many times science, the word science means magician, Merlin. That's where it comes from. Before science, there was religion and signs. Before religion, there was only signs. That's so the signs were the dreams. The signs were dream state.
Yeah.
It's written all through the Bible, but we dismiss that now because we say, oh, well, you're copying something on Hollywood, or you're copying something on Google. And we get that a lot because we're photographers. Why don't you photograph it all the time? Well, the energy for me to pick up a camera and take a photo, I change my frequency instantly because I become more tunnel vision, and I'm not there to do that. If you need to have hardcore evidence, then maybe your frequency isn't quite there yet and you're fighting it. And maybe you need to have another look at it, or a different path, or a different angle. Because if you're still needing the hardcore evidence, then you're in a different space. And we say that to people a lot. Where's your evidence? And we have pictures of orbs and things like that, but there's so much out there that you can see now. The internet has progressed so that you can see it. So we always say to people, if you need the evidence, you don't need to come to us. We're sharing our experience because we've had it hand on as you're sharing your experience with us. If you're not at that frequency to understand those experiences, then you're just not meant to hear any more. And that's okay. But we get it. And you know what I love is when the little girls say, what do you mean you can't see that? They'll say, what do you mean you can't see that? And one thing I love is we'll be like at a lake or a creek, or we'll be out just walking somewhere, and our little girls will hear a connection. And a lot of the time it's water beings, so we call them sirens. They can be salt water, and they will go underwater and come up with a huge crystal. Even in murky water, they'll come up with a hematite or a carnelian or a quartz, and sometimes genies come up with a rock this big filled with water that's millions and millions of years old. Like they come up and they come up and I'll say to them, how do you know where that is? And they said, I don't know where it is. They told me. Who told you? How many of them? What did they look like? Oh, we couldn't see them this time, but they moved like this, or they spoke to us in this language, and they'll tell us, and then they'll say, okay, what do we need to do? Do we need to do something with this crystal? And they say, oh, we have to wait for more information. Someone's going to come through.
Oh.
So, yeah, and you see things like that happen. Then you'll see that night, you might see a craft, and it happens all the time. Then you'll have the animal kingdom do things to us, cross our path in unusual ways, and they're unexplainable. They really are unexplainable, and you just can't dismiss it.
Have you ever had contact with the yowie?
Yeah, I knew. How did I know you were just about to say? So just before, when we were leaving the last farm, we had giant ones come to us. We have had giant ones before. There's many different versions of giant ones. Anyway, the kids found they were walking along the creek near where we used to live, and they found 6 huge footprints, and they were big. Anyway, the next day they were very excited because there was 6 of them, and so they took me down to the location, and we went, and they took me to the location where they saw it, and I saw the footprints, and they were huge. As I was at the location and I said out loud, wow, these footprints are huge, I look down and I pick up the hugest crystal that I've ever found right at my feet. And even the girls were like, wow, that's huge. You've never found one that big. And I said, I didn't find it. They're giving it to me. So I picked it up, and if I hold it up, it had a water line in it. Oh. And I instantly saw that in the rock, which I have a picture of, has a picture of like a mummy or a pharaoh sitting up from their tomb. And I was like, wow. We did then have connections from overseas, and we had more giant ones come through, and there was something about a blue marble. Sasquatches in the USA leave blue marbles, and there's a gentleman on YouTube, and he has lots and lots and lots of YouTube videos of, Bigfoot sightings, and they always leave blue marbles. Anyway, Jeannie, as I tell her the story, she says, oh, we've got blue marbles from that location. And so we went, and I said, do you have any of those left? And she said, yes. And I said, I think they want you to take it back. So we went back and took the blue marble to that location. Oh. And then as we did that, things that were sort of not happening for us, we were having sort of like things not progress, things weren't moving forward. There was lots of delays. The car was broken, the mechanic couldn't fix it in time, human sort of things. As soon as we took that marble back, boom, 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 everything happened. Like everything that was holding us back happened within 1 hour. So we got a yes confirmation. Oh, you'll have your car fixed. Oh, this is okay. You'll have some money here. This is, and that's how we know. It's like the universe holds you back to complete that thing that you're not doing, the spiritual thing that you're not doing, whether it's for yourself or for a being, and so it would. And then once it's complete, then everything moves on. It's like a release.
Yeah. I'm moving to a new house soon, and I'm hoping to be able to like do more C5s. Living in a basement, not having your own yard, and you can't go out and like do a C5 near near where I live. I'm always afraid that the police might come by. What are you doing there? Oh, I'm just calling in ETs. it's a bit dangerous. So yeah, I'm hoping to have fun with that. I'm hoping to make us like an altar and just give them food. I've had a friend in the US. They would go out camping and they would bring apples and stuff like that, food to give to the star people, and they would have. She had healings really from ETs. Her glaucoma disappeared. She had an infected toe. She had an orb coming to her chest at night. She blacked out and woke up the next morning, and her really badly infected toe was totally healed. So she's the type of person that does that, gives away food to the star people, and so that's something that might help people get contact more. But
Well, I love hearing that story, and I love the fact that you want to do that, because that's one thing that I would like to share is that we started with giving the goblins call it nilings, which are gifts to goblins, and goblins are tricksters. They will help you assist with your spoken word. So words that you're saying out loud, you're casting a spell. And so they help assist you. So it's part of the ascension process, as in the deprogramming, basically. So the goblins are ancient ones, and they hold ancient information, and they know the original code. So words that you're saying on default. So check words that you're saying through the day, like, isn't it? You've just cancelled it out. Are you saying cancelling words through your day? Isn't it? Instead of saying, isn't it, you say, it is a nice day. You don't say, isn't it a nice day? You've just cancelled it out. And so they've taught us to be more mindful and slow our speech down. So once we learnt about the goblins, we respect them, and the girls would go and give them gifts. So they give them, they like sweet things, they said. So we would give them golden syrup, and they'd squirt it on a rock, and then the girls would say, but they want this ring too. So we would go and put a ring there. As soon as we make, again, the acknowledgement, as soon as it happens, something miraculous happens for us in the universe, something amazing. It's like the act of knowledge, the act of acknowledgement to the cosmos is like you're giving back, and then the cosmos gives to you. And it's a real, I can't explain it. It just happens all the time. It happens usually within 24 hours of a clearing or a grounding or an offering. So hearing your friends and hearing that you're actually shifting because you want to be able to do that more. And I mean, that's what our kids, I can't wait to tell the kids that, because I'll say to them, this man I met today, he's shifting because he wants to go and have these experiences.
Yeah.
And so another one we do is collecting pine cones and putting pine cones in areas or planting seeds. And it's not our land, and it's not the forest land. It's sort of no one's land. No one goes there. It's sort of forgotten patches of land, and we'll go and put seeds there. And sometimes, like you said, you feel like you're doing something wrong. You think, the government, I'm on someone else's land. I'm not. Well, we just drive along the road, put the pine cone seeds there or whatever seeds we have, and we'll leave them there. And it's like you're saying, I know that this land has nothing on it, but it's an offering to the universe. And it's just acts of random kindness, not only to animals and other humans, but also to where we exist.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping to buy land or a house near the woods, but things didn't turn out that way. But if I did, I would have made myself an altar in the woods somewhere where I could have, done things properly. But that reminded me of a story about the playfulness of the beings, the goblins. My friend, my lady friend who's in her 60s, her daughter, when she was 16, it's a family of experiencers, but both of their children had stuff when they were kids. The youngest, well, the eldest, the male had clowns in his bedroom in the morning. Basically probably Grey's, I imagine, because she had Grey stuff later on. Her daughter, when she was 16, she'd wake up with what she would call trolls jumping on the bed. They were playful, and she was afraid of them. And she would close her eyes, and the little trolls, let's say, would forcibly, open the girl's eyelids so she could see them. And but they jump around, and they were playful, and but at that age, it could have been traumatic, but still, it's not always bad. It's just how you perceive it.
The interesting thing about fear, and I can relate to that little girl because I would run and jump onto my bed because I was worried that the hands would come and grab my ankles, is that fear, and this is what my husband taught me, which was very, very important message. Fear is more than what fear is. I used to ride motocross with my husband, and I came off and I fractured my wrist, and I went into shock for the first time. We had no children at this stage. And he said, I'm going to have to leave you in the forest. So are you going to be okay with this? And I was fine with the forest, but I wasn't fine with the fear, because what was happening is my pain was starting to escalate in my head. And because I had never had proper pain, I didn't understand what pain was except in movies. So in my mind, this pain is never going to stop. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. It doesn't happen like that. What happens in your body is very clever. It's a very clever machine, our bodies. Our bodies get to a certain level of pain, and then it shuts off. It stops there, and your body goes numb from that point of pain. So you'll feel up to that point of pain. The rest of the fear or the pain is a program in our heads, and you can turn that off, but you have to be aware that it is that. And he said that to me. My husband said it's shock. Shock comes in a wave like that, and you feel like it's not going to stop, but shock will stop at a point, and that's your point. That's like your threshold of pain. You've heard that saying. So you got your threshold of pain, and then it will stay there. And if you can just not freak out, not let your mind freak out, you'll be okay. And it was. And that, knowing that information, I had natural home births with the kids. No drugs. Because I knew that the pain would only go to that point, and then the body would turn off the pain and deal with it differently. I just had to, from that point on, had to switch the fear, pain, or program off in my head. Once that goes, it's the pain. There is no pain. It's the most amazing thing. Another film I describe is Lucy, how she turns once she evolves with the drugs or whatever that are in her, and she is ascending, she can turn the pain off. Once you turn that pain off, the fear pain, then your body can really go into rapid healing, rapid healing. So then it's like that fear pain here fills up all your energy and stops your body healing. So through Richard helping me understand pain, and then the beings sending me information or technology, from that point on, they can heal me, or I can heal myself. So they gave me technologies or different techniques to heal my body. And you just go, wow. But if I stayed in a fear state, the little girl running and jumping on the bed and not wanting to open her eyes, then I can't get to that next level. Okay. And that's where if we can assist, I call us ships, because we're bringing in the new seed, the new craft, the new kids. We can bring in the new kids to not have that fear, how different it will be for them.
Mm.
I mean, we're already seeing a lot of kids come through and they see it so differently, but if we can support them even more, yeah.
It's funny a bit regarding the information that your husband told you about fear is exactly what a reptilian told a friend of mine. She's her name's Nancy Tremaine. She had contact with the reptilians, and she called her reptilian Mister. And I think she had an event where she was really in pain, and the reptilian said, "Is what you're perceiving pain. You're perceiving pain at you're thinking it." So that's what you were describing is exactly what the reptilian said to my friend. The pain is perceived.
Wow, that's so. Thank you for sharing that, because I love hearing that. What a great, the being that came through for me with that assisted, one of the beings that assisted for the I broke my back last year and I was in so much pain.
Yeah.
And this being was reptilian as well, and that's why I'm going to show you, because it's interesting. That's house being, and house is a doorway. That's what it means, house. And the way this reptilian being came to us, he came to Gigi through a song, and she was not happy with the song. It was, I'm a reptilian, I'm a reptilian. That was the song that came through on her phone, but her phone was not on, and her phone has never downloaded that song. So she had no idea how this song was coming through her phone, and she got really annoyed with house. Anyway, we worked out that this being's coming through. Once she got through the annoyed feeling with this being, because she felt a bit violated how it came through on the phone and saying I'm a reptilian, because our understanding of reptilian has always, what we hear isn't of the nicest things, but we believe there's always two sides. Anyway, so Gigi starts drawing this being, and this reptilian being showed us all our names, our family names, in order of our age. Then the being started showing us the reptilian frequency in each family member. And each family member has a certain amount of reptilian in them, because we have reptilian inside our head. And it's in the mind area as well, right near the pineal gland. And it was showing us the percentage, and 2 members of the family have more reptilian in them than house. And he gave us those percentages as a sign of, he showed us like how the ancient Indians would trade. So it was like a fair trade. He showed us that like that to make us feel safe with his information. Once we had his information, then Gigi could complete the drawing and complete his information. And then he offered me a healing tool to help me heal all my damaged cells in my body from my back being broken. And if it wasn't for the beings, I can honestly say I would not be walking today.
I hurt my back a few months ago, so I can relate.
Yeah.
Did you know that I had a few friends that passed loved ones, dead loved ones, communicated through phones with them. So dead people can communicate with you through technology, yeah. And a friend of mine, her ex-husband, now this happened this maybe early summer, he was watching a program. He's in the States, so he was in his man garage. So he had a nice sofa and a big screen TV in the garage. So he was watching a TV show. During the commercial, the sound started to slow down, like morphed and distorted. And within the voice that came through the TV said, "We are not here to harm the humans." She's a hardcore contactee. He's not an experiencer. So that was his first wake-up call to, stuff actually happened. He ran into the house to tell her, and he was taping it, of course. They rewinded it, and in that sequence where he replayed it and nothing happened. So so they do come in through technology somehow.
They definitely, well, we find the way we found out about angels and ETs, we found out through our meter box blowing up, electrical meter box blowing up. And that night we found out about how energies travel, and they travel through water, they travel through metallic rocks, and they travel through glass, they travel through electricals, and obviously frequencies. But that to materialize for us, they have to, like, so if we say to people, if a glass smashes, did that smash randomly, or did you do it? Did you do it, or did it, if a glass breaks because someone's trying to get your attention, or a window, because glass is water, it's solidified water, or mist. That's the other way we find mist, rain, electrical storms just before or after. And the other way is the other way, things turning on and off, on and off, on and off. We have that. So if any of those things happen for your viewers or yourself, you might now just go, hang on a second, what's going on here? Like, I shared with people that I would have an iPhone, and every time I would have my iPhone, it would never have the right time as everybody else's iPhone. But how is that possible? Because they're so accurate. So we thought my phone was broken. So we went and bought another one, and the new phone did the same thing. So it was like in my frequency, I could change the frequency of the phone, or whatever being was around me was changing the frequency of the phone. Or so I agree. It does happen through, like, flickering lights. Yeah.
Is your daughter, that the one connected with electricity, does she have problems keeping, electrical devices on? Does the battery drain?
More like it will come on.
Okay.
It's not just, because it's not just electrical, it's electromagnetic as well. So she can be walking past you, she'll zap you. The cats the cats love her, but they always test her when they go up to her, because they know she might give them an electric shock. Because we are a big family, Gigi, who has drawn those pictures I've shown today, and Ginger share a room, and Gigi says she can hear her energy through the night. It's like a hum. One thing we've noticed with Ginger's energy is beings are kind of not wary of her, but we tease, the kids tease Ginger. They say, oh yeah, all the beings are scared of you, Ginger, but they're not scared of her. It's just her way that her makeup is. So they need another port to be with Ginger, to accept a being to come through for Ginger. So it'll either be myself or Gigi or my husband, or someone else will have to be with Ginger before one will come through. And it's always someone quite different. It's quite a different experience with Ginger. But it's funny for her, for her to walk past devices and you'll see the electric shock come out. There's nothing wrong with the appliance, but you can see it come out. And it's like, wow. She's actually, we had our son get electrocuted by lightning, because we have to be very careful when we are with electrical storm with her, because lightning just seems to come near her. So we just have to.
How awful.
But to our kids, they don't look, because it's part of our family. It's just fun stuff, It's just it sounds really, I don't know. I don't know what it sounds like to other people anymore. But it's just, to us, it's just happening. So it's just another little fun thing to tell.
Has regarding the all the contacts you have, has anything regarding the new Earth ever been brought up?
Yes. Yeah. They keep asking to share. They've said that I have to speak up. They've keep going the way we're going, keep sharing, keep sharing. They've showed a near miss of alignment of planets. They showed me that, and it was like millimeters. You know, when you see how pyramids are built with precision, it was like that. It was a near miss. But the shift has happened, and they showed a clear void space. And even the beings don't have full idea of what is about to present now. And it's up to us. And it's a clean slate. They keep showing me a clean slate, and it's up to us to keep this momentum going. And I mean, I'm sure that you notice how different you speaking up was a year ago to now.
Yeah.
How fast it's starting to spin, and it's contagious, and it's the momentum is here now. You can't not stop the momentum now. You can't undo it. It's doing now. It's in motion, and now we're spinning, and I'm spinning, and you're spinning, and now we're the ones that aren't spinning, they spin slow or heavy, or they're even holding it back like that. It's through us spinning and us shining our light, whether they want our help or not, it just spreads.
Well, I'm glad you're speaking out, because we need more people like yourself, because it's hard to get people on. A lot of people that have these amazing stories, a lot of them are afraid of speaking out, either because of their family, how they might be viewed, or a lot of them have people working in the military, or they're part of the military, so they do want to keep things hush hush. So it's a bit difficult, but at least you're out there, and you're the fact that you're talking, it does help people maybe get closer to you, and some of them probably do reach out to you, and that's very healing, at least to me, I think. Before we end this interview, do you have like a closing statement that you might want to get to my viewers?
Yeah, we've shared a lot of things with talking today, but at the end of the day, we do our day-to-day things. So I'm a mum, and I have dishes to do and clothes to put away. And these things that we're doing, yes, sometimes they'll be a little bit different, but I'm also doing them while I'm doing my normal day-to-day things. So noticing things, appreciating things, offering things, gifts, speaking with beings, I'm doing through the day-to-day. It's not this magical spiritual moment and I had to do a full meditation or anything. It's happening always, every single moment. And if we can share that with other people, it might not make it feel so far away. And if I'm doing it, I'm here in flesh and blood. My children are here, flesh and blood. My husband is. We are all doing it. We're all able to do things. It's just you've just got to find what your thing is to do, and connect and whom to connect with. And you might not connect with any of those type things. You might connect with something completely different. But everyone has you're here for a purpose.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today. You're a beautiful soul, and you've got a beautiful family, and I feel very blessed that you chose to come on my show today. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
And to those watching, hope you enjoyed today's interview. I'm your host, Mr. Gray. More interviews coming up, and I'll see you guys next time. So take care, everyone. Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Gray, and thanks for watching today's episode. If you are an abductee, contactee, or experiencer, and you believe that your story could help others, please feel free to contact me through my YouTube channel email. When it comes to experiencers, the ET phenomena, and the future, remember, truth will out.